Hey everybody, Coach's Corner is back. We've taken our summer vacation. It's now July 20th. I think today is the day that Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. But anyway, Coach's Corner is back. We've come back from summer vacation, not quite full time for the broadcast yet, but just kind of a hey, how's it going? What you been up to type deal. So here we are. Heck is being a good Catholic and meeting with his church groups, and the rest of us are not quite heretics, but whatever. So here we are. How's everybody doing?
It's Thursday night. Give us a break, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's church on Thursday night, is there?
No.
Hey, if you're
It's not the
Catholic, there's church every day.
Not for us Presbyterians, they're not. That's for
No.
sure.
Yes.
Not for us Methodists either. So.
Yeah.
No. John, how are you doing, bud? You and Kenny have had a busy June.
We really
July,
have.
summer-
Obviously, yeah, we did a lot after the last podcast we had there right before Memorial Day. We took off into the state tournament with softball and baseball, and Kenny's going to fill us in a lot here on the softball. It was really a great spring, not just for Kenny and I, but for a lot of local teams. We had 3 state titles. Obviously 2 in softball, 1 in baseball. We did an all-star game down in Lafayette the weekend after the state baseball finals. Our company is doing really well. We're doing Elkhart Miracle, which is that it's the kind of a college developmental league. There are some guys that have been drafted by Major League Baseball who are trying to crack into the minor leagues. And then a lot of high school graduates are starting college careers, and some college guys who want to play some summer ball. We've been streaming all of their home games, so we've been really busy. But Kenny, why don't you kind of start us out? What a great time we had at Bittinger Stadium that weekend in June. That Friday and Saturday, 3 of the 4 state championship games were great ones for us on broadcast sport.
They really were, John. And I'll tell you, what a way to end the spring season. New Prairie winning a state title, Caston making its first ever appearance in a state championship in any sport. And then, of course, the story with Penn. What can you say about the job that Beth Zachary and that team did, knocking off Ron Colley in the finals at a 9-inning absolute classic. But from here where I'm sitting, there's still a lot of people in New Carlisle and Rolling Prairie who are still gushing over the softball team winning the state title. That was a tremendous story. And you look at them, John, and they were a team that they only had 3 seniors on their team. And there were a lot of folks who looked at them that they knew they were a talented group, but really maybe a year away from making some real headway in the state tournament. But it was a group of kids that really just believed, and they really played a schedule, I thought, that prepared them for the tournament. You know, you look at who they played, not only the NIC, but you look at the fact they played Lakeshore, who's a major power up in Michigan, Edwardsburg, who's solid, Andrean. We saw them in the 2A final, John, against North Posey. We know how good they are. And they just got on a roll. And, you know, we talked about this in the finals, and you brought this up. It's a great point. They, I think, really thought in that sectional was going to be basically the New Prairie Invitational. They got pushed by South Bend Clay maybe harder than any team prior to the final. And when they won that game, they kind of took off and really got on a roll. We did the Tippecanoe Valley game, and we saw what they did with the Valley. And then, of course, when they went to Twin Lakes and knocked off a really good Hanover Central team in the morning game, and then had to play number 1 Leo with 9 seniors on the team, and they found a way to win 1-0. And then they get to the finals against Tri-West. It's a tight game going to the 6th inning. And Tri-West helped out with 3 errors. And what can you say about the way they played? Abby Robakowski, I mean, this kid's 5'3" maybe at most. And she was really the one that, she was the one that really throughout the year that helped them out. But one of the reasons why they won that state title was a young lady who really came into her own in the tournament, Emily Mrozinski. You know, I figured it out after the tournament was over. Without Emily's performance in the final 3 games, they hit something like less than 100. It's like 0.97.
Ooh.
They couldn't, that lineup couldn't hit. And here's this kid who's a junior who really good ball player, but really not the ones that you'd see like with the Ava Geyers, the Abby Robakowskis, and the Michaela Collins. Here's a kid that went through in the last 3 games of the state tournament, 8 for 10 with 6 RBIs. And she came through with 2 big hits. And her hit, John, you remember that 6th inning that gave him that insurance run was probably the biggest hit of the whole season that helped them win that ball game. And Ava Geyer, you know, what can you say about this young lady? Sophomore, and she's going to be incredibly good the next couple of years. She had a great catcher helping her, Michaela Collins, who was really a big part of that small senior class that they had. But they found a way in that final game to beat a pitcher in Lowry, who's going to Oklahoma, and she's good. She's really good. John and I saw her firsthand, and she's the real deal. And they beat a heck of a team to win that. And we went to the banquet a few weeks ago, and you could tell that these girls are just still on cloud nine. I mean,
Right.
What's the coolest part about all this, guys, is this community is so ingrained in football, and they've never won the title in football. For the first team to be a girls softball team in New Carlisle and Rolling Prairie, that is a tremendous accomplishment.
Well, and the biggest sport really for girls at New Prairie traditionally has been volleyball.
Right. And Derek Hicks, when he got the job 6 years ago, he wanted to make this softball program relevant to where they could win a state title. And I met some of the girls at a basketball game in February, and they were working the concession stand that night. And we were talking about the season, and they made a comment to me, yeah, we're going to go to state. And I said, okay, if you're there, we'll be there. Little to realizing that they would go on and win the title. It was just tremendous. And
well, it really was. And, you think back, and one of the other great accomplishments of this team is, they got to hold the trophy, but one of the other great accomplishments of this team is this entire team was named Academic All-State.
Yes.
Not just one or two or three kids. This was the entire team, coach, that got named Academic All-State. That doesn't happen.
That's impressive.
You know, as a coach, that you might get a kid or two here that'll get on All-State because of how they do on the court or the field, but not necessarily in the classroom. This entire team was Academic All-State. They were like 3.5 something. As a GPA as a team.
I can't even relate to that.
Well, I'm not. That's my grade.
The basketball teams I've had. Now I will say this. I could jump to the golf teams I had. The golf teams I had. Yeah, we had a bunch of. I had several valedictorians. When I was coaching golf at South Bend Adams.
You had three Hawks.
Yeah, had the Houck family. But basketball, we're working on study table trying to get kids eligible.
Well, and that's one of the things
for them to have Academic
guys.
All-State like that's very impressive.
And that's one of the things, Pat, that Derek talked about was that he stressed the importance of academics on the team because, John, you did the pregame interview with him, and that was one of the things he talked about was if the kids didn't get their schoolwork done, their schoolwork came before stepping on the field, whether you were an all-state player or whether you were the number 15 or 16 player on the team. His focus was making sure that the academics were done first. Well, and it was something was a team.
That's so refreshing because you hear all these stories about how the kids are running a program and coaches are afraid to do anything because you're going to lose a player. But here's somebody that's created a program.
Yes,
and he has his rules established, and if you want to follow those rules, you can be part of that team.
Right.
Whereas we're not going to. Some places you change the rules to fit your clientele. Right. And that's obviously shows the buy-in that those people have at New Prairie with the softball. You were talking that. Think about what Penn's softball accomplished. And Penn's baseball wasn't there one day in June where you had Penn softball, Penn baseball,
and Coach Kineski won the girls.
Girls basketball, the Indiana All-Stars with Christie coaching the girls. And then here's Marcus Burton, MVP of the boys game. That was at Indianapolis.
Yeah. It was the Saturday of the 4A girls softball finals.
Yeah.
That all happened. Yeah.
So there was a lot that went on in South Bend and St. Joe County right there in a matter of two Saturdays back to back, as I recall.
Yep.
Well, that Penn Roncalli game I thought was one of the most exciting softball games I'd ever seen.
Well, it's funny because I was down at a golf outing. I was at a Butler golf outing at Noblesville, and there were several the Roncalli coaching staff was there. They were all several Butler alums, and they were talking about the upcoming game because I guess the Saturday before Roncalli had just won, their semi-state. I can't remember who they played, but they were getting ready to play Penn. And they knew Penn was good, but they were very confident, for their chances the following Saturday that was coming up.
Well, I think one of the big reasons why Penn won that game was a great coaching move by Beth Zachary when she brought in the sophomore that pitched, and she gave him 5 solid innings, and she pitched phenomenal. And they hung around. It's 1-0 going to the bottom of the 7th. They give up the bomb, and now you're looking at extra innings, and you're thinking, God, how is Penn going to find a way to win this thing? And they did. And the crazy part about that game, guys, was it ended on an interference call in the bottom of the 9th. Girl from Roncalli was running the second baseman from Penn was fielding the ball, and she ran into her.
That's crazy. That's just textbook. You can't do that.
No. And
it's not like that'd be a controversy. I mean, the second baseman's fielding the ball, and you just truck her.
Yeah. And I knew her.
That's pass interference, right? You can't do that.
But no, Beth did a remarkable job. And let's talk about Greg Dicus, guys. I mean, what a job he did with that team this year. Their rock bottom moment may have been when they got beat by Jimtown. When they got beat at Jimtown, and I think Drew's still celebrating, by the way, John.
Yeah, he's in Boggle Creek enjoying, yes.
Yes, he
still
is.
in the creek.
Yes. But that was that moment where I think they hit bottom.
And reality smacked him in the face, and there was probably a come to Jesus meeting somewhere in the dugout. About the future.
That was a long, short bus ride back to Penn, I'm sure. But
it was a long conversation, I bet.
And what I thought was interesting with Penn is that they had to rely on their number 3 pitcher most of the year. Their 1 and 2 got hurt early in the year. So they're down to their number 3 pitcher, and Adam Lehman, who had to basically carry that staff and ended up pitching the championship game and won the championship game for Penn. And the kid's going to Western Michigan because of that. Yeah. But they're riding their number 3 arm all the way to state. Who would have thought that? Well, their number 1 and 2 guys down with injury couldn't play. And I think Kenny's right. Just what Dicus did with this team is just amazing. Yeah, they get to the regional, they get to the semi-state every year, but they weren't expected to go back to back. Are you kidding me?
Well, and how they won those games, John. I mean, they had. Against Lake Central. Lake Central had the bases loaded in the 7th inning. Penn turns a double play and they win. And in the final against Hamilton Southeastern, I think Penn got one hit.
One hit. They got one hit the whole night and still won.
And won 1-0.
Yeah.
Go figure.
But let me put these two up in the corner to work. We got Scott and Steve up there.
Hang on 1 second. We're gonna get kicked off in 5 minutes. So when it does kick us off, I'm gonna make a new link.
Okay.
And we'll just start up again. Because I don't pay for Zoom. So I'm just gonna make a new one because we're capped at 40 minutes on these, and we killed so much time just jibber jabbering. So I'll make a new one and send it out in a second when it kicks us off.
Okay.
But
and you can edit whatever you need to edit.
Yeah. Post-production.
You're right. Well, one of the things I was going to mention, John, right after our last podcast at Bar Louie in May, the week of Memorial Day, I ended up in Texas. Scott and I were supposed to go to the race, and with his new job with American Airlines, he ends up having to go to meetings and fly. So the race got put off, and so I called Steve and said, "Hey, you need some helpers down at the Colonial." And one thing led to another. I went down there with Steve and my other brother Jeff, and I worked at the Colonial for 5 days there in Fort Worth. So,
and you were a TV star because you got the sign on the last putt of the tournament saying "Quiet, y'all."
I had the sign that said "Quiet, y'all." But we were on the eighth green and 9T, and Steve, you saw Scheffler's hole-in-one, right? Tell us about that. Where were you?
I was just right there.
That was on Sunday,
looking
right?
straight at the green, and when he hit it, and I was kind of like, "Oh my, that's getting ready to go." That went in a hole.
Yeah.
So
he got to see a hole-in-one. Scotty Scheffler's won. I've been gone all day today. So who's leading the British Open today? I don't even know. Does anybody know?
I'll look it up.
It's some amateur from South Africa.
Lambert.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think they start kicking off at like 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
Actually, you got a 3-way tie: Tommy Fleetwood, Emiliano Grillo, and Cristo Lambert or something. Yeah. 3-way tie, 5 under. So
That's day number one. But,
Yep.
but anyways, that was a lot of fun. We got to go down there, and then we had a wedding. So I've been to, like 2 weeks later, we went to Seattle for a family wedding. And then the last 2 weekends, we flew back down there to see Scott. Scott has moved to Frisco, which is on the north side of Dallas, and he's now flying American Airlines, and he's now has a new home team.
Undefeated since the All-Star break.
Oh Lord! Now we get the Texas Rangers.
Swept the artist formerly known as the Indians and the Tampa Bay Rays here recently. So hadn't been a terrible 6 games for the Rangers, but they got the Dodgers this weekend, so that'll be fun here in town.
Well, and you've got the AAA team right down the street from you.
Double
AA. He has moved in. He lives up in Frisco, like right down the street from the new PGA headquarters.
Oh, wow.
So he's up in some pretty nice areas. So it might be a couple plane tickets down there.
The Cowboys practice facility is like 2 miles out the road too.
We drove by the Star a couple of times there on the North Dallas Tollway.
So that's what I've been up to this summer.
We've been 2 weeks ago. I was in Nashville to see Stephanie, and her husband has been gone for 2 weeks. He's running a travel baseball team. Jordan's been running a team, and they just got merged with Team USA or Prime Time USA or something, some big national baseball team, and they're running 14 and unders, 15 and unders, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what our June is about. John, you guys have had some all-star games. Talk about what Lafayette, you had baseball?
We did 3 games. We did the Indiana North-South All-Star Classic. That's always a lot of fun. It's a 3-game series. They play 2 on Saturday. And if anybody has never gone to the renovated Loeb Stadium in Lafayette, you need to go. It is absolutely beautiful. They've redone all of the seating. They've redone the press box. They have like a little picnic area now down the right field line. If you're looking from the press box, they've added a water park right next to the zoo because it's right next to the Columbia. There's a full water park there. So the city of Lafayette has done a lot of great things. And we had some good baseball. They played with their, composite and metal bats on Saturday. Then they played a wooden bat game on Sunday. So these high school kids picked up the wooden bats and got to play that. And that we were able to do video for all 3 of those. And that was a lot of fun seeing some of the best in the state of Indiana, the best pitchers and some of the best players in the state of Indiana playing an all-star series. And that was a lot of fun. That took up that weekend in June. So we were busy basically from August until the 3rd weekend in June doing stuff for the company.
If you're looking to buy or sell property in northern Indiana, Andy Kern and Jim Carpenter of Weicker Realty are proud supporters of Coach's Corner and have you covered. 2 native sons of South Bend will be there for you on every step of your real estate journey. Support the people that support us. Call Carp at 574-277-7444 or call Kern at 574-386-4479 and make sure to tell them that Heckin' King sent you. Turba Custom Engraving is a proud supporter of BroadcastSport.net and the broadcasts of football season coming up here in the fall. Turba offers customizable bricks that are laser engraved, and they're available on their Etsy shop or on their regular website at turbacustomengraving.com. That's Turba, T-U-R-B-A, customengraving.com, or you can go to etsy.com/shop/Turba Custom Engraving. Okay, so as a Purdue guy, where in relation in Lafayette is this new stadium? Because I feel like I've driven past a stadium next to a water park before, getting out of town, going back to Indy or wherever from campus, but I can't remember exactly where it is.
Yeah, it's not too far off of 18th Street. Do you know where the Columbian Park Zoo is? Have you ever been there before?
I've driven past it, I'm sure.
And that stadium is right there on that same property, right on that corner is the new stadium, because they used to have the press box used to be down the right field line.
Yes.
And they remodeled it, and they have the Lafayette Aviators play there. They're kind of like they're not, I think they're like a developmental team or some kind of league. They play because what's really interesting about the seating there down the third base line, all of the seats have the little Lafayette Jeff Bronco logo on the seats. Down the right field line, they have the Lafayette Aviators logo on all of the seats. So it's kind of interesting. And then in the press box area is really nice. They've got a booth that has the PA and the scoreboard. Then they've got 2 radio booths, and they have a middle area for newspapers or other things like that. So they've really done a nice job with that. So if you've never had a chance to go check out the new logo, and they've got a nice video board, of course, in the left center field area, like most places do. It's a very nice place to watch a game, and got a nice little concourse area. And parking is not the best because there's an ice cream shop right across the street, and there's a school right across the street.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
And then there's a school right across. There's an elementary school. One of the Lafayette schools, elementary schools, is right across the street. So yeah, it's a beautiful facility.
Lafayette Aviators.
John, my question is this the old minor league ballpark?
Yeah,
they had there for years.
Yes, where they used to play the Colton Pony Leagues and
World Series.
Steve, we probably played up there in high school. We played there in the 70s when we played Lafayette Jeff, and right down the street was the old Crowley Arena, I believe, because that was. I mean, I'm old enough that I played in the old Lafayette Jeff gym, old Crowley Arena that was downtown before Lafayette, the new school was built. And I think we might have played in the new school. We were the very first year that they opened the gym where you guys know of where Lafayette Jeff is now when I was in high school. And I think my freshman year, sophomore year, we played at Lafayette. And then my senior year, we were back up there at the new arena. So that would have been early 70s. Anyway, I digress.
Roy Taylor probably put 40 points on him.
You know, Lafayette Jeff was good when I was a junior and senior. Matter of fact, senior year, they were state finals. They were second in the conference. We beat them during the season, and they came through the Purdue semi-state and won that semi-state, and we got beat in the semi-state in 74. So they ended up getting to the state finals in Bloomington that year. So, well, John, let's talk about probably the touchiest subject we might have. Let's talk about the football all-star game, because I've got a couple opinions about that.
It's a shame. There's been a lot of changes with this. They played it at
Decatur Central, wasn't it?
Decatur Central. They've moved it around. It used to be at North Central all the time, but unfortunately, when Paul Logan passed away, they had some construction there for a couple of years. But then when he passed away, the new AD didn't really want anything to do with it. They moved it back to Carmel. It's been at Ben Davis. It was at Ben Davis 2 years ago. And they moved to Decatur Central. And, you know, it's supposed to be a great game. It raises money for some charities down in the Indianapolis area, including Riley Children's Hospital. And the guys spend a whole week down there together. And then, unfortunately, it got a little bit chippy right from the opening start. I guess on the first series of the game, the North quarterback was scrambling. He got rid of the ball, and he got blindsided, got hit. That started all the chirping. A lot of pushing and shoving, and I guess about 4 minutes, the crew that did the game was from Fort Wayne. They warned both benches. They pulled the kids and said, "Hey, this is an all-star game. Let's put the chippiness away and let's just play the game. You know, you're the best in the state of Indiana. You know, you've been chosen to be here. Act like it." And they didn't want to act like it. And I guess there were like 4 or 5 consecutive penalties in the fourth quarter. So with 4 minutes left to go in the game, they said, "We're done." It has caused an outcry. Unfortunately, Kenny, as you know, one of our good newspaper friends, Jim Peters from the LaPorte, whatever they call it now.
Herald Dispatch, yeah.
Herald Dispatch. He was at a scrimmage the other night with Chesterton and New Prairie. That game got really chippy. They ended that scrimmage early because of chippiness, and everybody you see on social media now is saying that this is more and more prevalent in high school sports, and it's getting out of hand. And an all-star game, that's sad. That's really sad. When all those people come and watch these kids, it's their last time ever in a high school uniform, and they have to act like that, and that's not good.
You're looking at high school seniors that have already graduated. They are 6 weeks away, 4 weeks away from heading off to college for fall practice as a college freshman. You just wonder what they're thinking. What do they have to prove? That they have to be, the tough guy. I mean, they've already got things set up for college.
Yeah, most of these guys
more like you'd think it'd be more like a touch football game, like the Pro Bowls become, where they have to, just don't touch me, don't get me hurt. One of those deals.
Right.
I'm thinking, the Coaches Association's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they do.
Why, as a kid, next year, why would you send your quarterback to the All-Star game to worry about getting his head taken off? You're looking at college coaches saying, you're not playing. They're just like you get in the high schools now. You got a lot of kids in the high school games that, they're selected the Indiana All-Stars for basketball, and they're not going because they're going off to summer school for their college, to get some classes in the month of June.
Well, and
see that happening.
Well, yeah, and we used to, as a company, used to do that Indiana Basketball All-Star Classic that Steve Stremming runs down at Anderson University. And he was having problems. He would have senior games and junior games, both boys and girls. Well, it got to the point where they would send these invitations to the coaches. They give it to the kid would accept. They don't have to pay to play in it. They get a t-shirt for participating, and they get an opportunity. And some of these kids don't have scholarships as an opportunity to maybe get a last-minute scholarship. Well, now these seniors have decided, I don't want to play. Even if, so he ended up getting rid of his senior games this year because none of these seniors want to play. So he's just doing futures, which are sophomores, freshmen, and juniors now.
Yeah, there's really no reason there, and like we see that the high school all-stars are having trouble play. Kentucky's always having trouble fielding a team now, to the point where, that Indiana All-Star games will be threatening as well. Yeah. So I think the football coaches have got a lot of work ahead of them here, trying to mend some fences, damage control, whatever you want to call it, to get people to want to play, next year.
Well, I think with some upcoming football media days in our area coming up the first week of August, I think that's going to be asked by some of the media guys of these coaches. Not that they were involved, but what as a coach do you do with kids? What do we got to do to get these kids to understand this is a game and you're not going to be out there taking kids' heads off? It's, there's a safety concern here too, especially for the football guys.
Well, and Kenny, you'll appreciate this. I'm sure that the referees are right now here in July and early August. What they'll be talking about at their officials meetings is these unsportsmanlike things. How are they going to take care of? Because as well as I do, these kids can't act like that in a high school game. They'll get booted in the first quarter. They can't allow that to happen. The stuff that they see in the pro games, that's drifting down. They think they can get away with that talking smack stuff and staring each other down. In high school, you can't do that.
Well,
Pat, one of the things that John and I did last year, and also Drew, we went to a officials meeting over at LaSalle Academy, and Bob Falcons was there, and all the officials from the South Bend area were there, and it gave us an opportunity to really kind of find out what the rules were and get kind of an idea of what those guys go through, preparing for a season.
Right.
I officiate kids baseball, but I didn't realize the kind of preparation these guys go through to get themselves ready for high school football. And I was very impressed with what I saw, with how these guys emphasize the importance of safety and sportsmanship being the absolute number one thing.
Right. And I totally agree. And I tell you, a lot of the things that you can't see up in the bleachers, but like that umpire that's back there with the linebackers, he's constantly talking to people.
Yeah.
They don't want to throw that flag. Right. They're constantly talking to people about keeping their head up, on the blocks, and staying in front and keeping your hands to yourself. Don't be grabbing and all that stuff. And then they're talking to those wide receivers and corners about, about illegal contact and things like that. So you're right. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, preventative medicine, so to speak.
Well, and one of the things that comes up all the time, too, from the athletic administration side is that the IHSA has this sportsmanship program, not just for the schools, but also for individual kids.
Right.
They got these pins, and Ben Bachman's a great example at New Prairie. He'll give a kid a sportsmanship because he picked up a kid after maybe he tackled him or something. He'll pick up his opponent or whatever they are doing. And that is a big emphasis. And when you talk to some of the board of directors, and Kenny, we had an opportunity to talk to some of the board of directors. We talked to Brian Lewis, who's the head of officials for the IHSAA, and he talked a lot about sportsmanship and talking about safety of athletes, no matter what sport it is. And that's one of the things that they try to ingrain in coaches as well as athletic directors. Hey, you've got to teach sportsmanship. all that. And he even mentioned that, if you remember, during the state softball finals, about the NFL, about all this stuff all this trash you see in the NFL, and they're letting these pro guys get by with it because they get paid to play. It is drifting down to the college, it's drifting down to the high school, and it's even drifting down into some of the middle schools and like the ICCL and some of these youth leagues. And Kenny, you've probably seen this, yeah. And Kenny, you've probably seen this with your Babe Ruth umpiring. You have to be on your toes because you never know, a parent or a kid or a coach might do something.
Yeah, and I can say, honestly, and I've been doing this now 30 years. I've never had a coach physically grab me or physically harm me in 30 years of doing it. I'm one of the rare ones, I guess you could say, because you hear the horror stories all the time about youth umpires just getting attacked, and that's why we have
walking after you when you're heading for the car. They follow you to the car, want to talk.
And one of the reasons why we have such a shortage of officials now is because people don't want to put themselves in harm's way if some parent goes off the rails, and it can be very tough. But I will say this: I think the IHSA does a pretty good job of backing the officials. And if you have a coach that acts up and gets tossed, that coach is going to get a talking to from some folks in Indianapolis, because they don't like hearing that stuff.
I agree. I think you're exactly right. Well, like you said,
I had the chance when I was in college at Purdue doing IM officiating, and I did football and basketball and some of the other stuff. And my boss that ran the intramural sports department at Purdue now is a NBA referee.
Really?
Yeah. So he was a great example of professionalism in the way of doing it. And, a lot of our guys went on to do high school and lower level college games. And part of my reason for not continuing to do it, other than being in college, I was really busy trying to graduate early. But the other thing was, during that time between 2014 and when I graduated in 2017, it was just starting to trickle downhill where people didn't know how to act anymore. And I was like, I don't know if it wouldn't even necessarily me trusting parents or whatever to not come after me. I don't know if I trusted myself to not snap back at anybody else. And I think that's the other thing that people get in trouble with, for sure.
Well, and guys, one of the things too is, you could, and John, Pat, you and I know this, when we do a football game, you could tell who the officials are that are going to be in charge, and they're not going to take any crap from anybody. I can name two guys right off the top of my head: David Spencer and Andy Simpson. Oh, yeah. David Spencer, who I refer to as the Ed Hockley of high school football. Big Dave comes out there and he's in charge, and everybody knows it. Andy's the same way. And John relates to me all the time this great story that he had. Him and were you with Drew and Pat? Were you at that Hobart game that night that St. Joe won in the last play?
No, he wasn't. It was
Drew. The Hobart game. I went over to when you went to the New Prairie Hobart game. That's the only time I've seen Hobart play.
Okay, there was a game that, and John relates the story great, because I think it really tells the kind of official Andy Simpson is when it came down to the last play of the game in the sectional against Hobart. And John, you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, yeah, because that's a great story.
Yeah, it was St. Joe and Hobart. It was in a sectional game over at the new Bricky Bowl. It was like the first year the new Bricky Bowl was open. Tony Carmo was at quarterback for St. Joe. They've got like a 4th and goal at the 1 yard line or something like that. Quarterback sneak. He looks like he got hit before he put the ball over to the line. And so we're waiting on a signal. There is no signal at all. Nothing. So we're waiting. The two line judges that were on the back line finally came up and told Simpson, yeah, he got the ball. He didn't get his body across. Ball was across. Touchdown, St. Joe. St. Joe wins the game as time expires.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And so what happened was the Hobart coaching staff goes absolutely nuts. They start chasing Andy. Are you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, and I'm sure there were a lot of explicitives thrown at this poor guy. And we saw him the next night at a basketball game, because basketball season, he was doing a clay basketball game, and we were doing a clay basketball game the next night after that football game. And I saw him in the lobby at Clay, and I asked him, I said, why didn't you signal immediately? He said, that's not my call. That is not my call. I'm in charge of the crew, but as the white hat, I'm behind the play. I can't see it as well. That's why when you're going into the end zone, you've got those two guys, and we've seen this at school
On
field.
the sides.
They're on the sides. They're watching the line judges. They're watching that line. He said, I had to wait for them to tell me if he got over before I signaled touchdown to you guys in the press box.
Right.
And it just
But,
and
you know,
the
and
whole
on
coaching
TV,
staff
on
couldn't believe
TV
it.
now, think about they've got cameras in the bricks at the goal
Pylons.
lines. You can see across, you know, the pylons, and they've got
St. Joe wins
cameras
the
on.
sectional game over Hobart that night, and the Hobart coaching staff, the guy ended up Andy cost him. He gave him about 5 words, and I think they were 5 explicit. And Andy, even when the game was over, Andy said, "Go, you're done, bye."
Yeah, go.
Kicked him, and so that shows you what Andy Simpson will do. He's always told us, and we love seeing Andy because he loves being a showman as well.
Oh,
But you know, he's a good showman as well. But he told me, he
but he
says,
can back it up. He's a good
yeah, he
official.
said, I'll back it up because I will let the coaches know that I am here. My crew's here. We're in charge. You coach, you let us officiate. You got a question, you can ask us. But that's it. Anything
He's there
else?
for the
Not
kids.
nothing.
Yeah, he reminds everybody who you are and what your role is. You're here to coach. He'll
here to officiate.
tell the kids. He'll tell the kids, you play, let me officiate. You know, one of those deals.
Oh yeah.
So I mean that's and Spencer does the same thing.
Oh yeah.
They're there for the kids. I agree. Well, listen, let's move on. What's going on here in July and into August? Because we're getting ready we'll probably have another podcast here in the next couple of weeks, but we're gearing up to get back to Bar Louie in August. And you, myself, and Heck will be there live. But we'll have a couple more of these Zooms here coming up, depending on Scott's schedule. But what's going on the rest of July? We've just got teams you got your fall sports people really, starting to gear up to their off-season programs, conditioning to get ready.
Girls golf starts next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say golf season starts like before August 1st.
Yeah, it's like that whatever that Monday is.
Whatever that Monday is.
Yeah,
the fall sport, because then there's they have another moratorium week coming up.
I think next week is the last moratorium week. And then the last week of July, which is like July 31st, that's when they start all those fall practices, even though there's a lot of conditioning going on right now. So we're getting into fall sports season. We as a company still have 3 Elkhart Miracle games left. They're playing at the Northwood Field of Dreams facility. They're in Napanee, a $53 million facility. They have 2 baseball diamonds and 2 softball diamonds at this facility. Video boards on all 4. It's not really a video board, but it's a scoreboard, but it also keeps pitch counts for baseball. It's really, and it's all turf. It's no dirt, nowhere. It's all turf. And the Elkhart Miracle are renting that from the Wani schools this year. And we did a bunch of games in June. We've got a bunch in July. Right now, they're on a big road trip. They just had their all-star game, the Northern League, which is teams out of Northwest Indiana from Whiting and Griffith and the Valpo area, places like that. It's a 6-team league. They just started up, actually just really started their second part of their season, which is only going to be 2 weeks tonight. So we've been streaming all the home games for them, and then that's going to end here around August 3rd. And then it's football season, and we are obviously starting to plan our football broadcast. We've already got our new Prairie schedule set. We've got our South Bend football. Sorry, my wife came in and shut the light off like it's nighttime or something.
That's what wives do. Turn the light out.
Shut the light off. Yeah.
It's not like Motel 6. She didn't leave the light on for you.
Yeah, no, she did. She turned it off. But we've got our South Bend schedule already set up. We have that on our website on broadcastsport.net. We just put that up there today. We are still in the process of getting sponsors. So we're kind of switching over here from spring and summer mode to football mode. We're getting
ready for the fall
football season.
And the next time we'll start talking. We'll let Scott talk some about the Texas Rangers. We'll get our baseball taken care of.
Get Heck back on talking about the Cubs.
Heck will be here.
I don't want to be a Cubs fan tonight.
And I imagine we'll probably have to start talking about Notre Dame football here pretty soon.
Yeah, they start fall practice next week. So
oh boy.
Well, because they've got that week 0 game, so they get to start ahead of everybody else.
That's right. They're going to Dublin for
so
early on.
So we can do that, but we are, getting ready for football. Our first game, Coach, as you know, is going to be Adams versus Culver Academy at School Field on that opening night. That should be a very interesting game.
Okay.
4A versus
Right.
a 5A school going that night. And I'm gonna shameless plug here. Turba Custom Engraving out of South Bend is going to do our engraving for us, and we're going to give out the offensive and defensive lineman of the game award.
Okay, we're gonna do that again.
We're going to do that again. Not the sponsor we had last year. We got a new sponsor in Turba Custom Engraving, and they're going to do decorative rocks that the kids get to actually keep each week when we do a South Bend game of the week. And they're all South Bend public schools, and we have some sponsors on board already, including one of your golf buddies. We'll give the Colonel a shout out here. Andy Kern and Jim Carpenter of Weichert Realty.
Good.
Some of our fine sponsors are going to help out this year, and so we're moving forward to that and really looking forward to football season.
Yeah. Well, and I am right in the middle of a 4-day golf tournament, and I will say I am the oldest player in the flight that we're in, and we are in way over our head. We have I've got a 9 handicap. My partner's got a 10, and we're playing at Orchard Hills Country Club up here in Buchanan, and it's our invitational. So it's got all the Calcuttas and all the auctions and money with numbers that have too many zeros on them that I'm not even used to being a school teacher. But
well, we're gonna have to get
a lot of people. We had
balance the books.
Yeah, we had the horse race tonight, and that's why I was running a little bit behind. They had it took quite a bit of time, and we were an early out. We got to the chip off and didn't do well on that. So we were spectators. Becky's up there having dinner right now. She just stuck around. She said, "I'm staying here. I'm hungry." So she had her own car, but we've got 2 more days. We played 5 9-hole matches, and these guys are good, and I can't hit it as far as I used to, and it's fun, but it's very humbling to realize that you can't hit it as far as you used to be able to hit it. But that's the next couple of days for me. So trying to finish that up. We'll get another one of these going here in the next couple of weeks, and like I said, we'll check in with everybody. So Scott, you want to close us out and tell everybody what's going on for the next little bit?
Sure. We'll drop these YouTube episodes as much as we can all get together going forward, and then we'll restart the weekly shows from Bar Louie on broadcastsport.net. And I've been told that the phone interview audio quality is going to be significantly better, to where Heck doesn't have to hold his phone up to his boom mic anymore.
No.
John has some new investments, he said, in equipment.
Yeah, I've been working the last few days with my friends at Sweetwater in Fort Wayne. I told Josh we'd give him a plug, my sales engineer, and he got me set up with what we need. And I'm making kind of a huge investment so our podcast can be from Bar Louie, or wherever we decide to do these will really come into effect. So
we can get our phone guests, because we're going to really try to get us some good people there in those
interviews. And we do want to get Kenny on live one time to talk about the New Prairie football season, where they're going. They open up with the Milk Can game August 18th at Kiwanis Field against LaPorte. That's always a big game. It's big brother versus little brother, even though I think that role's reversed in football here lately.
Little brother's won the last 5 in a row.
Yeah, there you go. But there's still that mentality, so that's going to be a big game.
Little brother's grown up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
just a little, yes.
Yeah,
but it's a game there nobody here is taking lightly. Believe me.
No, that's their Super Bowl. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then I will look forward to being the official correspondent of Texas high school football. So I'll give you all the insights from Allen and McKinney and Denton Geyer and all those powerhouses down here.
He's right in the middle of football country. Allen's got the biggest high school stadium around. That thing's huge.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's somebody in the top 10 nationally that's from the Metroplex down here. So I'll let you know.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And then Uncle Steve here is going to nurse his Achilles and get back to golfing.
That's our plan.
And just head him straight tomorrow, Coach, will you?
I want to. I need to. Yeah.
So from all of us here today on the Zoom, and make sure and go to broadcastsport.net for all of your sports viewing needs. Till next time, see you later.